25 years ago, a police officer named Maria Ramirez made a life-altering decision, one that didn't make headlines at the time, one that wasn't written in any job description, and certainly wasn't part of the day's shift report. But it would go on to change 5 lives forever, and eventually her own. At the time, Maria was a beat cop working in one of the roughest districts in her city. She was respected by her peers for being firm, fair, and deeply empathetic, qualities that helped her navigate the emotional toll of a demanding job. She had no children of her own, and by all accounts, her life revolved around her career and the community she served. But one rainy night, everything changed. While responding to what seemed like a routine call, suspicious activity at an abandoned building, Maria stumbled upon something that would shift her entire world. Inside the building were 5 young boys, frightened, dirty, and clearly living in dangerous conditions. The oldest looked about 10, the youngest, maybe 3. They had no adult supervision, no food, and no idea what would happen next. It didn't take long for Maria to piece together their story. The boys were runaways. They had fled an abusive foster home, one where neglect and mistreatment were reportedly rampant. These children weren't criminals. They were survivors, doing their best to stay together, even if it meant hiding in a condemned building. At that moment, Maria could have done what was expected. She could have called Child Protective Services, documented the incident, and moved on. She had done it before, but something about these boys struck a chord deep inside her. She couldn't stop thinking about what would happen next, about how they'd be separated, placed in unfamiliar homes, and possibly lost in the foster care system. So she did something most people wouldn't even consider. Maria applied to adopt all 5 boys. Now imagine that for a second. A single woman working full-time in one of the most stressful professions, choosing to take on not 1 or 2, but 5 traumatized children, all at once. It seemed impossible. Her co-workers thought she was joking. Even child welfare officials were skeptical. How would she afford it? How would she handle their emotional needs? What would happen to her career? But Maria didn't waver. She went through months of evaluations, court hearings, home studies, and interviews, and eventually she became their legal guardian, and more importantly, their mother. The early years were incredibly difficult. These boys had been through more pain and instability in their first decade of life than most people experience in a lifetime. They acted out. They had trust issues. They hoarded food. Some were aggressive. Others were emotionally shut down. They came with trauma that couldn't be fixed overnight. Maria faced daily challenges. Balancing her demanding job with parenting 5 children wasn't just tiring, it was emotionally exhausting. There were school meetings, therapy appointments, behavior problems, and constant worry about whether she was doing enough, being enough. But she remained consistent. She gave them what they had never had before: structure, safety, and unconditional love. She taught them responsibility, made them feel seen, and reminded them that their past didn't have to define their future. She took them to therapy. She helped with homework. She celebrated birthdays, even if they had never celebrated one before. She made sure they sat down for dinner every night, no matter how tired she was. And slowly, with time, the walls started to come down. Her boys began to change. They started trusting, healing, and believing that they mattered. Years passed. They grew into teenagers, then into young adults. There were still struggles, setbacks, and plenty of tough times. But Maria never gave up on them, and in return, they never forgot what she gave up for them. Fast forward 25 years. All 5 boys, now grown men, have taken what Maria gave them and used it to build something incredible. The way they repaid her, it's nothing short of unbelievable. Let's start with David, the eldest. He always had a sense of responsibility, often acting as a second parent to his younger brothers. Inspired by Maria's emphasis on education, he became a high school teacher. But more than that, he created a scholarship fund in Maria's name, specifically for children aging out of the foster care system. He helps kids just like him pursue college and stable careers. Next is Jesse, who was once the most rebellious of the group. He struggled with anger and came close to joining a gang in his teenage years. But Maria's patience and tough love guided him back. Jesse eventually became a police officer, just like his mom. But he didn't stop there. He launched a mentorship program for boys in juvenile detention, giving them hope, guidance, and real-world opportunities. Marco, who had a passion for cooking, became a chef. He opened a nonprofit kitchen that provides free meals to homeless families every Friday. He named it Mama R's Diner, in honor of the woman who never let him go hungry, even when money was tight. Then there's Luis, who struggled deeply with anxiety and trust issues as a child. With therapy, time, and Maria's support, he grew into a compassionate and confident adult. Today, he works as a social worker in the very child welfare system he once feared. His mission? To make sure no child slips through the cracks the way he almost did. Finally, Angel, the quietest and most introspective of the five. He found his voice through art. Today, he's a professional sculptor and public artist. One of his most powerful creations is a permanent memorial dedicated to foster youth who age out of the system without ever finding a family. The sculpture bears the inscription, "Love can build anything, even family." To celebrate Maria's 60th birthday and the 25th anniversary of her adopting them, the five brothers planned a surprise tribute. But this wasn't just a party. It was a declaration of everything she had built through love. Each of them presented something they had created, from scholarships and programs to public art, all in her name. It wasn't about paying her back. It was about continuing her legacy. That night, Maria stood surrounded not just by her sons, but by the ripple effect of her compassion. Students, families, social workers, and community members who had all been touched by the work her boys now do. She had saved 5 lives, and in turn, they were now saving hundreds more. Maria never asked for recognition. She never did it for applause. She simply saw 5 children who needed someone and chose to be that someone. Her story isn't one of fairy tale endings. It's a story of sacrifice, resilience, and the transformative power of love. And perhaps what's most incredible isn't just how the boys repaid her, but that none of it would have happened if one person hadn't made the choice to care.